Welcome back, guys. Today I'm going to be doing a first week impression of the Vive. I originally planned on doing a day one impressions, but I decided there's tons of those on YouTube and I really wanted to get into the Vive and check it out and look at the bad and the good and all that good stuff. So I've been using the Vive for about a week now, and I have to say I'm extremely impressed with the Vive. It is a big step up from the DK2, of course, but the motion controllers and room scale really puts VR over the top. So first I want to talk about the packaging itself. The box is freaking huge, and when you open it up, it's like box inception. There's multiple boxes inside of it, which isn't a problem. It's just kind of overwhelming at first, because there's so many different accessories to this, all the different wires and stuff, but everything is actually really well packed because of the box inception thing that it has going on. Now, the box itself isn't really a carrying case because it is so big, but it could be used as such. I don't actually plan on ever moving the Vive, or in the foreseeable future I don't plan on moving it, but if you do, you could still use the box as a carrying case. Now, the setup for the Vive itself can be a bit of a pain and a little bit overwhelming at first, but once you get it set up, it's there, it's ready to go, and you can play the Vive whenever you want. You do want to mount the base stations as high as possible. There is a minimum of 6.5 feet. If you can go higher than that, definitely do so. I ended up moving mine up a little bit. I had a little gap between the base stations and my roof. In the Steam VR settings under development, there is a room overview to check your tracking coverage, which is really good to check out. They don't really tell you that in the instructions. However, once you have your base stations mounted, the Steam VR setup is pretty straightforward and only takes a couple minutes. You do really want as much PlayStation, you don't want a PlayStation in this. You want as much play space as possible. I'm using a 10 foot by 10 foot play area. Now, this isn't a small player area by any means, but you're always going to want more room. So I suggest, getting a big play area to start with, and if you don't have that play space, smaller PlayStations are fine. They work good, but like I said, the bigger the better. I actually ended up getting rid of a couch and a recliner and have moved my table out of my living room. So when I'm not in the Vive, my living room is pretty damn empty, but in the Vive, it's freaking amazing. The base stations themselves seem to be very well made and comes with a very long sync cable. For those of you that the base stations can't see each other, you can use the sync cable, which I'm actually using because my base stations are a little bit at a weird angle. They also can be mounted on tripods or clips, and there's a mount on the back and side, which is really nice for people that want to actually move the Vive around from different locations. Now, the base stations are actually always on unless you take the option to turn them off in the settings. Now, I originally was doing this, but when you turn VR back on, it takes a minute or so for the tracking to come back on the base stations, and they acted kind of funky for me, so I ended up just leaving it off so that they're always on, and when I'm not using it, I just pull the power. I've got both plugs on surge protectors, so it's quite easy just to flip the switch and flip it back on. Moving on to the controllers themselves, originally I thought they looked like generic wands, like the Razer Hydra and all the other different motion controllers that have been out in the past, but they're actually really well made and feel really good in your hands. The touchpad on it works great. It acts not only as a touchpad, but you can use multiple buttons by pressing down, which again, I thought this wasn't going to be good. I wanted joysticks, but actually I really love the touchpad. The grip button is really well placed. It's really easy for people that's just picked up the controller to just know what to do. It's very intuitive. Now, the home button is a little too close to the touchpad. Some people have hit the button on accident when using it, but other than that, even people that don't play video games at all, once they've put the controllers in their hands, everything just works for them. It's not like an Xbox controller where they kind of have to use it to know what to do, so that's actually really good plus. The battery life is really good. I charge it probably every other day. It really depends on playtime, but the battery life is pretty damn long. Since they are really lightweight and track one-to-one with your hand movements, it's really easy to pick them up off the couch without taking the HMD off, which is really fun when you put somebody in there that hasn't played it before and you hold out the controllers in front of them. They can just grab them without taking the HMD off. It gives a good sense of immersion and is actually a really good way to show people the one-to-one tracking and how it's actually going to work. The HMD is actually really well made. I originally thought it was more kind of a dev kit when I was going for the Oculus, but now that I've actually got my hands on it, it doesn't feel cheap at all. It fits well on your head. It isn't front heavy for me if you wear it properly. If the headset is leaving marks on your face, you're not actually wearing it properly. It needs to be strapped down tight, but not so tight that it leaves these big red marks that you see on some of the videos on YouTube of people actually wearing it for the first time. It does come with 2 removable face plates, one for a wider face, which is the one that it's already mounted on, and also one for the narrow face. I did have to use the narrow face for my dad's girlfriend. She has a smaller head and actually worked a lot better than the wide face, so if it doesn't fit real well, I definitely recommend checking out the other faceplate. Now, God rays on the Vive are there, but you really only notice them in loading screens. Once you get into a game, it just kind of goes away. You quit thinking about it. Same with the FOV. You can still see the inside of the headset. Of course, this is a limiting factor of current technology, but once you get in the game, it is not something that is noticeable. The cable itself is actually 15 foot long, which is plenty of length for what I need, but if you need a longer cable, you can increase the length by buying an adapter and getting another HMD and USB 3.0 cable. I did have a bit of problem with quote-unquote cable management while in the HMD. When I first used it, the cable was getting tangled up quite a bit from spinning around in circles, but once you've actually used the HMD a little bit, you kind of become more aware of the cable and know not to just, spin around in one direction a bunch. You want to rotate the other direction. It actually becomes quite easy to manage. Now, when you let somebody else use the HMD, you might want to kind of manage the cable while they're in there, just so they don't pull the rift off their headset or anything like that. There is a Bluetooth app that lets you connect your phone to the HMD itself, which is very limited at this point, but you can see people's text, and when somebody calls you, I haven't tried the calling, so I'm not sure how good that is, but the text, you can only reply with some predetermined messages, which is nice. If somebody texts you, you can select I'm in VR right now, etc. But like I said, it is very limited at this point. I really hope they kind of increase it to give you the ability to directly reply to people and maybe add some different notifications besides text, calendar, and phone calls. As for content, if you order a Vive now, it currently comes with 3 games: Fantastic Contraption, Tilt Brush, and Job Simulator, which is about $60 worth of content. I'm not sure how long that's going to happen. It does say limited supply. I'm not sure how electronics, digital games are limited supply, but whatever. All 3 of these games are really great. Job Simulator is great for showing off the HMD to friends. Tilt Brush is an artist's dream. Even for people like me that can't draw, it's still really fun to check out. Fantastic Contraption is a neat physics-based game. I haven't played too much of it, but it still is really cool and adds some really unique gameplay methods. Now, there are a ton of new games showing up on Steam all the time. A lot of them are short demos and experiences, and I thought this was going to be a problem, but I was actually wrong. Even the short demos and experiences are replayable, or a lot of them are at least. And with the Vive and VR and room scale and all that stuff put together, the short experiences are actually really great. It's not like getting a game on a 2D monitor and playing it once and just being bored of it. You could still go back and recheck them out. Some of the games are priced a bit too high, I would say, but they are adding content all the time to most of them, or at least a lot of them are adding new content. And if you don't like the game, luckily Steam does allow refunds, so you can get your money back for a refund. My favorite game currently is Hover Junkers. It's a multiplayer based game, and multiplayer games really shine in the Vive. Sadly, there's not that many multiplayer games at the moment, but Hover Junkers is extremely freaking fun if you like shooters. There is a Steam VR quote-unquote loading area that can be customized with different settings. Like, you can change the backgrounds, the 3D backgrounds, which is really nice from the workshop. There's also different controller models and base stations, which I haven't checked out because you have to opt into the beta. Steam VR still allows you to chat with your friends and voice chat and all that good stuff. It is pretty much big picture mode in VR. You can view your desktop directly from Steam VR, which is amazing, seeing a huge view of your desktop. You can watch videos and all that good stuff. Overall, there is a ton of content to check out. There's a lot of free stuff and a lot of paid stuff, of course. I'm actually currently happy with the current amount of content, but I would really love to see an MMORPG. I would really love to just get lost in a massive RPG game. All in all, the Vive is definitely an amazing piece of technology, and VR is really something you have to try to understand. Watching it on 2D video just really does not do VR justice. Now, I know a lot of people are probably wondering, should I buy a Vive or should I wait? And this question is really something you're going to have to ask yourself. If you have the money and don't mind waiting, I would say yes, it is definitely an amazing product. But if you don't have the money And, you know, don't go in debt just to buy a Vive. VR definitely feels like the future of gaming, but it is really for early adopters currently. The price is quite high. So if you're on the fence about it, you may want to wait, but like I said, it is really up to you. I'm not going to tell you have to buy it or you shouldn't buy it. It is something that you're really going to have to make a decision for yourself. I myself am really glad that I switched to Vive over the Oculus, and I've loved every freaking second of being in VR. Alright guys, well if you have any comments, questions, or game requests, please post them below. If you like this video and would like to see more videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for watching, guys.